Good morning. Good morning and welcome to our trustees, distinguished guests, faculty, students, and the entire Hofstra community to a most auspicious occasion, the convocation that formally names the Peter S. Kalikow School of Government, Public Policy, and International Affairs. We recognize the enormous importance of this naming and the many contributions of Peter Kalikow through this formal academic gathering this morning. We further recognize the transformative nature of his gift, which creates a milieu in which the social sciences can become ever more prominent at Hofstra University through an interdisciplinary engagement among students and faculty in the most pressing issues of our global world. My name is Gail Simmons, and I have the privilege of serving as Hofstra's Provost and Senior Vice President for Academic Affairs, and also as Professor of Biology. I also have the pleasure today of serving as Master of Ceremonies. We begin this morning with a few introductions. First, I would like to recognize our university's leadership, and I would like to ask those individuals to stand as I say your name. Our President, Stuart Rabinowitz, and the Chair of our Board of Trustees, Alan Bernan. Both of whom you will hear from shortly. The man we honor here this morning is also a long-serving member of our Board of Trustees, Peter Kalikow. In recognition of Mr. Kalikow, we're also fortunate to have a number of other trustees with us this morning, and they are David Mack, Marilyn Monter, Arthur Jerry Kremer, and Donald Schaefer. Next, in recognition of the significance of this new school, we are fortunate to have a number of current and former government officials with us this morning. I ask that you stand and be recognized as I call your name. The former governor of New York State and a current candidate for the White House, George Pataki. The former U.S. Senator representing New York State, Alphonse D'Amato. Three members of the House of Representatives who currently represent New York, Congressman Peter King, Congressman Lee Zeldin, and Congressman Daniel M. Donovan, Jr. The New York State Controller and Hofstra University alumnus, Thomas DiNapoli. Chair of the State Senate Higher Education Committee, New York State Senator Kenneth Laval. The Honorable Natalia Quintavalle, Consul General of Italy to New York City. Among us today are also two Calico Center Fellows, both of whom have distinguished careers in public service. Howard Dean is the former governor of the state of Vermont, as well as former chair of the Democratic National Committee. And Ed Rollins served in the Reagan White House and has worked on many presidential election campaigns. Please join me in welcoming all of our distinguished guests. I would like to introduce the scholars who will provide the academic leadership for the Peter S. Kalikow School of Government, Public Policy, and International Affairs. Our academic departments and our faculty are at the heart of our institution and provide our students with knowledge, experience, and mentorship, and the liberal arts that are the center of any great university education. These faculty are both excellent scholars and teachers who provide our students with an interdisciplinary education grounded in the liberal arts. The Dean of Hofstra College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Dr. Bernard Firestone, from whom you will hear shortly, and the chairs and representatives of the departments that make up the Kalikow School are with us. Would you all please stand to be recognized? Thank you. In our audience, we have undergraduate students representing each of these 8 departments, and I would ask that our students, our reason for forming this new school, and the first graduates of the Peter S. Kalikow School of Government, Public Policy, and International Affairs also stand and be recognized. It is now my pleasure to ask another distinguished Hofstra University alumnus, the chair of the Hofstra University Board of Trustees, Alan Bernan, to offer welcoming remarks. Mr. Bernan.
Thank you, Dr. Simmons. I'm pleased to welcome you all to this morning's convocation for the new Peter S. Kalikow School of Government, Public Policy, and International Affairs. As an alumnus and chair of the Board of Trustees, I'm proud to be part of this university every single day, but especially so on days like this. My pride today is also personal, because Peter Kalikow is not only an alumnus of this wonderful institution, he is also an esteemed colleague with whom I have had the honor to serve on our board of trustees for over 25 years. I'd like to be among the first to thank Peter for his unwavering dedication to Hofstra and to improving the opportunities for every student who arrives on this campus. His generosity over the years has helped burnish Hofstra University's reputation as an international center for presidential studies through the Peter S. Kalikow Endowed Chair for Presidential Studies and the Peter S. Kalikow Center for the Study of the American Presidency. And this new school we name for him today deepens and broadens not only his commitment, but Hofstra's to improving the political discourse in this country, as well as fostering a more collaborative, creative approach to governing. This school, as you will hear in more detail in a few minutes, will champion a pioneering, interdisciplinary approach to the study of public policy. From its earliest days, this university was built on this type of innovation by people who believed in forging a new path all their own, who are always striving to do more and to do better. From those first students and faculty who met in a single building in 1935, to the first class that graduated from the North Shore LIJ School of Medicine in May, Hofstra has defined by a bold, daring spirit. In the intervening 80 years, Hofstra University has become a world-class educational institution. It has evolved and grown from an extension of NYU to an independent college, from a college to a university, from a commuter school to a university of international reach and reputation, with schools of engineer, law, medicine, graduate nursing, and now government, public policy, and international affairs. It has been my great privilege to work with people like Peter Kalikow and our president, Stuart Rabinowitz. They are tenacious advocates who see opportunities instead of obstacles and make me proud to be part of this wonderful event today and part of this continuing and very exciting journey. Thank you.
Thank you, Alan. Now, it is my pleasure to ask the Dean of the Hofstra College of Liberal Arts and Sciences and Professor of Political Science, Dr. Bernard Firestone, to address the mission of the Peter S. Kalikow School of Government, Public Policy, and International Affairs. Dr. Firestone.
Good morning. On behalf of the Hofstra College faculty, and more particularly the faculty of the Peter S. Calico School of Government, Public Policy, and International Affairs, I would like to extend our deepest appreciation to Peter for his generosity and vision. The Calico School comprises 8 departments: the departments of Anthropology, Economics, Global Studies and Geography, History, Philosophy, Political Science, Religion, and Sociology. With over 60 full-time faculty and numerous academic programs, including an undergraduate program in Public Policy and Public Service, approved by our faculty just this past Friday, the Calico School, we believe, will become a magnet for those seeking undergraduate and eventually graduate education in the social sciences and public policy. I would like to take just a few minutes to describe the mission of the Calico School. Broadly speaking, the mission encompasses 3 equally important goals. First, to encourage in all students the habits of intellectual inquiry that are central to the social sciences and the liberal arts in general. Second, to prepare all students for lives of civic responsibility. And third, to nurture in some students their passion for public affairs. Several weeks ago, I met with Alex Hayes, a superb student in his sophomore year at Hofstra, who had been in my international politics class last spring. I asked Alex, who is from Maryland, why he had chosen Hofstra. He responded that in looking at Hofstra's website and related materials, he noted that Hofstra was a place for serious discussion about public policy. He mentioned the presidential debates, the Calico Center for the Study of the American Presidency, and Center for Civic Engagement. I then asked him if there was a particular issue that energized him, and he spoke of his commitment to environmental causes, including his membership in clubs on campus devoted to promoting a green environment. Alex is an exceptional student, but his interest in issues of public policy is not as exceptional as popular commentary about the state of the contemporary academy would have us believe. In fact, our faculty encounter numerous students like Alex who are passionate about issues of wide public concern, many of them aspiring to use their knowledge to help shape the world beyond the boundaries of their professional and family lives. Among the missions of the Calico School is to serve these students, to nurture their passion, to show them the varied ways in which that passion can be deployed, from work in government, to NGOs, to nonprofits, to policy incubators such as think tanks, and to prepare them for careers in which their interest in issues of public policy can be constructively engaged. Almost 100 years ago, in a turbulent post-World War I Germany, sociologist Max Weber, in a lecture to a university audience, noted the role of passion in molding and guiding those who enter politics as a vocation. He said, "Devotion to politics, if it is not to be a frivolous intellectual play, but rather genuine human conduct, can be born and nourished from passion alone." He went on to say that those who enter political life have the responsibility to view that passion or cause as a decisive guiding light of action, rather than as a means of self-glorification. At the same time, Weber cautioned that fidelity to one's passion and the willingness to act in its behalf must be balanced by what he characterized as a sense of proportion, a cool-headed detachment that accounts for the constraints on the pursuit of ideal ends. As we survey the contemporary world, we observe no shortage of passion or self-glorification. The shortage we observe is of intellectual detachment, of cool-headedness, of rational engagement with what philosopher John Dewey described as the public and its problems. This brings us to the second mission of the Calico School, the encouragement in students of habits of intellectual inquiry that are central to the social sciences. A member of our sociology department recently sent me an article titled, "The Myth of Common Sense: Why the Social World is Less Obvious Than It Seems." The author writes, "Common sense isn't anything like a scientific theory of the world. Rather, it is a hodgepodge of accumulated advice, experiences, aphorisms, norms, received wisdom, inherited beliefs, and introspection that is neither coherent nor even internally self-consistent." He goes on, "Social problems must be viewed not as the subject of rhetorical debates, but as scientific problems, in the sense that some combination of theory, data, and experiment can provide useful insights beyond that which can be derived through intuition and experience alone." In other words, public policy problems and their potential remedies cannot be understood without a strong grounding in social scientific research, in knowledge gained through study, in an understanding of historical perspective, and in an appreciation for the power of philosophical and ethical ideas as determinants of and constraints upon human behavior. The mission of the Calico School is not restricted, however, to those with a particular interest in politics and public affairs. The Calico School will address issues of civic and global literacy that are fundamental to American democracy and America's place in the world. And this will form the third aspect of the Calico School's mission. That democracy depends upon an educated and politically engaged citizenry is self-evident. Numerous studies, however, have pointed to the dismal state of civic engagement and literacy in the United States. In that connection, I recommend to you the work of my colleague, Maurice A. Dean School of Law, Dean Eric Lane, who along with his co-author, Meg Barnett, has published a revealing study on the state of civic literacy in New York State. But it is not only Americans' lack of knowledge about the American Constitution and our own political system that should be a source of public concern. As Charles King recently wrote in the journal Foreign Affairs, American leadership in the post-World War II world was not predicated on military and economic power alone. Instead, American leadership lay in its unmatched knowledge of the hidden interior of other nations, their languages and cultures, their histories and political systems, their local economies and human geographies. But over the past several years, government funding to universities for global, area studies, and language education has been cut. And this decrease in government support threatens to erode the intellectual capital that has been among our country's greatest assets in world affairs. For that reason, the timing of the establishment of the Calico School is particularly fortuitous. It is a reminder of our generation's continuing responsibility to provide the next generation with a civic education and to expand their curiosity and knowledge about the world beyond our nation's borders. That education is arguably as fundamental to our national security as is education in disciplines that retain our edge in technology or business. The Association of American Colleges and Universities, the country's leading national association concerned with the state of undergraduate liberal education, has defined the cultivation of civic knowledge and social responsibility as fundamental to the goals of a liberal education in the 21st century. Responding to the popular view that the humanities and social sciences are increasingly marginal in a world requiring highly sophisticated technical expertise, the AACU argues that civic education and a sense of social responsibility are essential not only for those who graduate from a college of liberal arts and sciences, but also for those trained in professional schools of business, education, communication, engineering, health, etc. Whatever the specific training students receive, their professional lives will, in almost all cases, take place within a social organization. In every workplace, including the virtual workplace, there are identifiable modes of social interaction and political organization, methods of engagement with issues and people outside the organizations, questions as to the allocation of resources and power within the organization, and norms of practice that are grounded in ethical questions with which humanity has grappled for thousands of years. The student with a strong civic education, who is sensitive to how social organizations structure and interface with the larger world, is better able to navigate the demands of an increasingly complex and diverse work environment. Thus, the Calico School, firmly embedded in the liberal arts tradition, will prepare its graduates not only for community and global citizenship, but for work in an increasingly interconnected world. Closer to home, the Calico School will connect faculty and programs in new and creative ways. Already, our faculty have proposed programs of study in global health, in war and violence, in food policy, and in women in development, among others. These programs draw on the strengths of our social sciences faculty, but they and others like them will also draw in faculty from other schools within and outside Hofstra College. Indeed, I hope the Calico School becomes the nerve center at Hofstra for interdisciplinary research in the social sciences and public policy broadly conceived. What better tribute to Peter's vision than that this research should improve and inform our lives together. It is now my pleasure to introduce the president of Hofstra University, Stuart Rabinowitz.
Thank you. Those two speeches demonstrate why, except for today, I always insist on going first. Everything's been said. But let me echo some sentiments. First of all, I'm thrilled at the turnout today, and I'm thrilled to welcome you, all of you, to this very significant event. And it's great to see old friends, great public officials, past and present, and so many faculty and chairs of the university. By the way, I told Peter from now on, it's his responsibility to handle all of these chairs of his various departments. This is a formal convocation. Most of you, knowing my style, don't often see us like this except at graduations with robes and various medals and so on. And that's because this convocation is meant to be steeped in academic traditions that date back centuries. And those traditions, from our outfits to the gonfalons, and by the way, I can tell you I feel very confident to say that in the history of American higher education, Peter Calico is the only person who designed his own gonfalon. He actually designed his gonfalon. Truly a man for all seasons. But all of these traditions are meant to commemorate a very significant event in the history of an academic institution. And today is certainly, let me emphasize this, a defining moment for Hofstra University. Today we take another step in our journey to be one of the nation's premier institutions for the study of public policy and public service. And today we state unequivocally that Hofstra University is one of the preeminent training grounds for the nation's next generation of leaders. As you have heard, this day has been many years in the making, and it was built on the university's long tradition of presidential studies and on Peter Calico's long tradition of generosity and dedication to this university. As many of you know, we have held presidential conferences for each president since Franklin Delano Roosevelt. And what you don't know is that Peter Calico has been the biggest fan of those conferences. Beside being a proud alumnus, a distinguished trustee, a very successful businessman, and a benefactor and an advocate, Peter is a voracious student of presidential and political history. I do not go to talk to him anymore. I send my academics to meet with Peter because all he wants to talk about is this president or that, or this political history or that. I ask for the money and then I go home, send the scholars in to talk to Peter. His interest and his passion for these topics is boundless. And the only thing that comes close to his interest and his passion for these subjects is his desire to change the current status of civil discourse in this country. His desire to instill enthusiasm for civic engagement in others, especially in our young people. And you have heard that through the years, Peter's interest and generosities took shape in the form first of the Calico Endowed Chair in Presidential Studies, whose holder, Mina Bose, is a nationally prominent scholar in the presidency, and later the Peter Kalikow Center for the Study of the American Presidency, which has provided numerous opportunities for students to interact with the finest scholars in this area and the finest political commentators and practitioners in this area. Hofstra's reputation, frankly, as one of the very few institutions in the country which has a unique focus on the presidency, is no doubt one of the key reasons that we had the honor of hosting 2 consecutive presidential debates, 2008 and in 2012. Now, we are now an alternate in 2016, but the great thing about presidential debates is they happen every 4 years. So we'll be back in 2020, believe me. Peter had a vision. Despite, it wasn't enough for Peter to help us with the chair in presidential studies and the center. He had a vision to do more, something original and innovative that could perhaps be an antidote to skepticism so many people have now about our government and the political process. And as Dean Firestone pointed out, our experience as educators is that, contrary to some people's belief, our young people are anxious for the opportunity to be engaged in the world. And they do feel like they could make a difference if they had some guidance on how to proceed. And that's what this new school is all about. Peter describes this as his dream. And today, the beginning of that dream is being realized with the Peter S. Kalikow School of Government, Public Policy, and International Affairs, and the launch of a new and unique undergraduate degree in public policy and public service. And today, it falls to me as my great honor to be able to introduce him. A man who has achieved extraordinary success and is generously committed to investing in the success of future generations. But instead of reading my introduction, let me read a letter which we received today from a different president, not me. This letter was so moving and significant to me, I decided we should introduce Peter by reading this letter. And Senator and Governor, it's from a Democrat. Dear Peter, I am delighted to congratulate you on the naming of the new Peter S. Kalikow School of Government, Public Policy, and International Affairs at Hofstra University in your honor. Over the course of your distinguished career, you have embodied the spirit of engaged citizenship and made countless contributions to the lives of New Yorkers. And thanks to your lifetime commitment to giving back, you have ensured that others have always benefited from your success. With the creation of the new school, you are giving Hofstra students the tools to follow in your footsteps and compose meaningful lives of service. By bringing together a diverse curriculum under one roof, you are creating a home for rigorous thinking and preparing the next generation of leaders to put policy into practice as active participants in our world's future. I know Hofstra holds a special place in your heart, and I can't think of a better way to honor your commitment to the university and your community than by dedicating this school that bears your name. Sincerely, William Jefferson Clinton. Peter, would you come up and stand beside me? All right. Now, at this point, I would love to present you with a Crystal Award to commemorate today's ceremony. Unfortunately, I can't find it. Thank you. So it is our honor to present you with this, and let me read what it says simply. Hofstra University gratefully acknowledges and recognizes Peter S. Calico, class of '65, for his outstanding contributions, distinguished career, dedication, and generosity. Presented at the Convocation establishing the Peter S. Calico School of Government, Public Policies, and International Affairs, dated today, October 26, 2015. Thank you and congratulations.
I'm going to do the thanks first because sometimes I usually forget one or two. My fellow trustees, President Rabinowitz, faculty, friends. The two most important people in my life were my mom and dad. And they have actually a bond with Hofstra in addition to paying my tuition bills. I think they were the only people of their generation who knew what a GPA was, because I had to make sure I maintained that GPA so I could graduate. So they would be thrilled to see me up here, and frankly, I wouldn't be anywhere today without them, so I thank them more than anything. I'm also blessed to have a great wife, 44 years. I shouldn't say it, but I said I was going to do it anyway. And I like to say that she provides an island of tranquility in a sea of my life, which is turmoil at best. My son Nicholas Calico and my daughter Catherine are of the same ilk. They provide support for me, and they just made my life worthwhile. My sister Penny is here because I believe that your siblings share your DNA. They are the most like you of any people on the face of the earth, and I'm just happy that she could be here to be part of this with me. One mention I have to make, but I'm going to tell you a story about him later, is my political mentor. What I know about politics, I learned from Al D'Amato. So, Senator, I want to thank you for coming, and I'm going to tell a great story about you which fits in to, and there won't be any curse words in it, don't worry about that. My two last thanks are my closest friend, David Mack, who in addition to being my closest friend, fellow trustee, leading advocate for this school, he was my schoolmate here. We went here for 3 years together. And I said any school that could survive Mack and Calico for 3 years was headed for something really great. And he and Stuart Rabinowitz are the ones that persevered. Sometimes those of you who know me know I can be a little bit stubborn. And they just pushed and pushed and pushed, and they made this happen. So I want to thank them, of course, Alan Burnham and the trustees, Bernie Firestone, Nina Bose, and the faculty, and the students, because one of the things I learned by the Calico Center was coming to seminars and listening to the undergraduate students and the insights that they have and the care that they have in preserving our government kind of got me steamed up to make sure that we can maintain this for a while. I'm also happy that we are adding now this school to liberal arts, business, education, law, medicine, and now government. But I'm also proud that the School of Business, named for my colleague and friend Frank Zarb, the School of Law, named for my colleague and friend Maury Dean, and the School of Communications, named for my colleague Larry Herbert. I joined them because we were all trustees of this university. And the fact that its graduates and trustees care so much about this school to invest this type of money and support really lets you know what kind of great place this is. Okay, now for the fun parts. I graduated 50 years ago this year. At my graduation, I got to meet Martin Luther King, who was the speaker. And for a school like us to have a guy like him then meant that we were really going places. And there's actually a picture of me with Dr. King that my sister says she doesn't have, but I know she does have, and I'm going to search her house and find it, but I know it's there somewhere. So this school goes back with me in my heart for a long time. Now let's talk about the discourse and where we are today. In 1937, they passed Social Security. There were 300 Democrats in the House and 70 in the Senate. So they didn't need any Republican votes. But the leaders of the House and the Senate and President Roosevelt said, I cannot have this bill pass with only one party supporting it. And 75% of the Republicans in the House and Senate supported Social Security. Now we're going to go a little forward for something that Dr. Bose and I are doing. Voting rights. Voting rights would not have passed without Republican support. But Johnson was smart enough to know that without that support, even if he could pass it, it wouldn't have legitimacy. And he got his friend Everett Dirksen, and they managed to get the senators they needed to pass that bill. It was a matter of working together. It was a matter of talking to each other, not at each other, not in sound bites. You know, there were sound bites back then. People don't think they existed back then, but they actually do in the newsreels. And even then, congressmen and senators knew what a sound bite was and tried to get them across. But the leaders of the country knew that the people's business was more important. My story about President Reagan and Tip O'Neill, clearly not lovebirds. In fact, I think that Tip O'Neill said Reagan is the dumbest person I ever met. He called him Hoover with a smile, as I remember. But they did what they needed to do to fix Social Security. And another president, President Clinton, clearly not a really close friend of Newt Gingrich, but he worked with him to pass the first time we fixed welfare, and we had a budget that a year or two after that was in balance. Now, they could not have done those things if they only talked at their adversaries and didn't get people from the other party with them to agree on where they needed to go. And one thing that I hope can happen in this school is the young people that will attend and graduate. And by the way, it's not only government that they can go into, it's other fields, public advocacy, environmental work, business expansion. There are lots of other disciplines other than government. But they will understand that without agreeing with the guy across the aisle from you, nothing ever gets done. And I think that it's that issue that encouraged me to talk to President Rabinowitz and my fellow trustees to allowing me to make this school and what it's going to be. My last story. Many years ago, Senator D'Amato was first elected, and I came down to Washington to have lunch with him to talk about, I was his finance chairman, so I had to tell him how we were doing. Usually he knew more than me, but that's just him. And his administrative assistant says he's on the floor, go up there and he'll be done soon, then you guys can go have lunch. He's debating an issue with a colleague from the Democratic Party. And if you've ever seen Senate debates, you can be as insulting or abusive as you want if you preface it by saying, the distinguished gentleman or my honorable colleague. So D'Amato was honorable colleague this guy, and this guy was distinguished gentleman him, and they were really going at each other. Okay, they walk off the floor, the assistant comes in, takes me down to have lunch. I go into the dining room. Who's he sitting with? That senator. So I'm busting to ask him, but I couldn't until the meal was over. And finally, I said, okay, explain this to me. He said, just because you have political differences with people, it shouldn't affect your personal attitude towards them. And he gave me a lot of advice over the years, some good, some bad, like buying a newspaper, you know, but that thing always stuck with me. And when I had my chance to be in public life, I followed that. And if our students will learn that, I think we're going to end up with a much better country than we gave them. So I thank my trustees, I thank Stuart Rabinowitz, I thank my friends on the faculty here, my family and friends in the audience for coming, and I hope this is going to be a great school. So thank you very much.
Thank you to Mr. Calico, his family, all our distinguished speakers, esteemed guests, our faculty, and our students. This concludes the convocation establishing the Peter S. Kalikow School of Government, Public Policy, and International Affairs. Please join us in the University Club for a reception in honor of Peter Kalikow. Will everyone please stand, and will the audience remain in place until the academic procession has left the Playhouse? We look forward to meeting you at the University Club.